The format of the test is broken into parts. There are 4 sections, so I'm going to talk about those 4 sections and what it looks like. So the first one is the reading section, and that is 54 or 72 minutes. So if you have 3 texts, it's 54 minutes, and if you have 4 texts, it's 72 minutes. The listening section is 41 or 57 minutes. And if you have a short reading section, that means you'll have a long listening section. Or if you have a long reading section, then you'll get a short listening section. After those are finished, which takes just under 2 hours, then you get a 10-minute break. When you come back, you start the speaking section. Now this can be longer or shorter, but it's going to be around 17 minutes. The writing section takes about 60 minutes altogether, and in total, this is around 3 hours. If you add on the paperwork and identification from before the test begins, when you need to get ready for it, then it takes more like 3.5 hours, even if the actual test was only 3. Now, the reading section. This is the first part of the test, and it's 3 or 4 passages. Each of those texts, each passage, is about 700 words. That's a full page, depending on the size of your book, but it's a good length. It's a lot, and you get 18 minutes for each passage, including the questions. Now, this is not separated, so if you have 3 passages at 18 minutes per passage, that means that the timer will start at 54 minutes and then count down to 0. You do not get a timer for passage 1 and then a separate timer for passage 2 at 18 minutes each. So that's not the case, because you get one timer that is for all of the passages. You need to be careful about your timing. So if you spend 30 minutes on the first passage, then you're going to have trouble on the next 2 passages. Because if you spend 30 minutes there, then you're only going to have 24 minutes if you have 3 texts for the next 2, right? So timing is very important in the reading section. You need to watch the clock to make sure you have enough time for each of the readings. Now there are 10 questions per passage, so that's included in the 18 minutes. So you read and then answer questions for about 18 minutes on each text. And the reading is very similar to university textbooks. Okay, it's going to be about science or history. Now you don't need outside information. You don't need to know anything before the TOEFL. It's all in the text. It's all in the passage. And you won't see anything about, for example, math. It's going to be topics you can learn about just by the text, not from symbols like math. Okay, the listening section is similar in a way, but you get 5 or 7 recordings. So that means you get 3 or 4 lectures, depending on whether it's 5 or 7 total. Those lectures take about 5 minutes, and then each have 6 questions. You get the questions after you listen. So you need to listen very well, and then at the end, remember the information to answer the questions. It's very similar to the reading section. These lectures are similar to the reading section in topics. So it's about humanities, science, history, social studies. But the conversations are a little different. Again, you'll have 2 or 3 conversations in the listening section. Now, those conversations are shorter. They're about 3 minutes each, and they have fewer questions, only 5. But they're also about very different kinds of topics with different kinds of English than the lectures, okay? So these are more conversational. They're about life. They're about problems, like maybe a problem with your car or a problem at the dining facility at the school, okay? So it's always from students who live at the school. Usually students who live there, and they're talking with professors or with other people who work at the school about some issues. Okay? So after the listening section, you get a break, and it's exactly 10 minutes, not more or less. You cannot finish your break early. You need to go and wait, which is good because you should take that 10 minutes. Stretch, have a snack, drink some water, go to the bathroom. Come back refreshed for the speaking section. Okay, and in the speaking section, you're going to have 4 tasks, and they're always in the same order. The first is the independent task. It's about yourself. So it's about your opinions, and you'll only have to speak. But after that, you have to read and listen, and then talk about what you've read and listened to. You'll hear a lecture, and then you'll hear a conversation. Actually, this one's a conversation, and this one's a lecture. And you're going to read first about the same information, the same topics, and then summarize what you heard. The final question is very similar, but there's no reading. You only listen and then summarize, say what you heard in the lecture. Okay, now in the writing section, you have also integrated tasks, okay? Well, you have one integrated task. The first essay is a read, listen, and then write task. So you will write an essay that summarizes what you read and heard. It's a short amount of reading and a short lecture at only 3 minutes each. Okay, but then you'll write for 20 minutes. And again, you're going to summarize what you read and listened to. And specifically, you're going to compare and contrast them. You're going to write about what's different usually. The independent essay, on the other hand, is about your opinions. So you write about yourself for 30 minutes and just talk about why you have some opinion. And there's a specific question, of course. You don't just choose what the topic is, but it's more open, okay? You don't just summarize like in the first task. You talk about your experiences and your ideas, so it's more free. Okay, so to summarize, again, you get the reading section for 54 to 72 minutes, listening for 41 to 57 minutes, and then a break. And then the speaking and writing sections with the independent tasks about your ideas and the integrated tasks, which are more like summaries. So we have a lot of academic English in these academic texts from textbooks about the humanities and all of that kind of thing. We have a lot of lectures too, and we'll talk more about these lectures and these texts in other lessons. And we have a lot of conversations in both the listening section and the speaking section later, and also more of those textbooks at the end in the speaking and writing sections. So it's a lot of academic English in various ways: reading, listening, speaking, and writing.